Good afternoon, viewers. You're welcome to another edition of was+vb-en English class. This afternoon, we shall continue from where we stopped in our previous edition of active and passive sentences. Today, we will need to examine how to convert active verbs to passive verbs. But before we go on, let's quickly take a good look or a brief look at what we examined in our previous class. I said when we're talking of an active sentence, that is when we have S, V, and O, both all performing actively. Subject plays an active role in the sentence, while the verb is also used in a direct form, in its active form. At the same time, the object will be used in a direct form. That is going to be the entity affected directly by the action of the subject. So at the same time, we said then that if you want to convert this to passive, we now basically have what is known as O, V, and S, which is supposed to be object being brought back to passive form, called passive subject now. This object will now be called the passive subject, and this verb will be called the passive verb, and this subject will be called passive object. When do we have this? How do we arrive at this? Please, let's go along as we examine them one after the other. Before we move on, we also examine the fact that the tenses, the kind of tense that is used in the active sentence, would determine how we are going to convert it to passive. Let's try to check them out today. Alright, today, let's start with the conversion of active verb to passive verb. We have the first one to be examined as simple verb. Let's talk of active verb and passive verbs. Now, speaking of active verb, how do we identify them? The first one, we already examined how to identify active verbs before. Now, the first one is, let's consider simple sentence or simple tense. Do not forget in our previous edition, we talked of simple tense as a tense that is used to express something that we do regularly. To identify that, we basically use the map of having only one type of verb. Either we have a copular or we have a lexical verb. Only one, not a combination that will give us two or more verbs. Now, then last time we examined simple tense, we said we could have simple present tense and simple past tense. Let's assume we have a simple tense involving present. Simple tense involving a present verb. Simple tense involving a present verb. The first verb that we need to examine, let's use one, beat. We have beats like Olu beats Shola. Let's use it. Olu beats Shola. We don't really need the subject and the object. What we need right now is the verb. This kind of verb is called a simple tense verb, and we call this one present verb. A singular present verb at that. When we now have a singular present, or we have a plural present, we have this: they beat the boy. We use beat as plural in the present form. If we have either of these two, how do we convert it to passive? Now, what we need to work on is the verb. This is when you now come back to the passive form. Please do not forget this format. You bring in what is known as primary auxiliary. Primary auxiliary. The primary auxiliaries that we are going to use will be present for the present. But let's use the mark for all simple things. We have primary auxiliaries. What will follow primary auxiliary? It will not be plus verb-en. Do not forget the last time we talked about verb-en. We said verb-en happens to be past participle of a verb. Meaning that we are going to use a primary auxiliary for this one, and we add a verb-en version of the lexical verb used here to arrive at our answer. Now let's start with the present. What are the present primary auxiliary that we have? This is when we are now going to bring in, if it was to be present, you bring in either is or am or are plus past participle. You bring in, for the present, you bring in either is, if the PS happens to be singular. You bring in am, if the PS happens to be I. Or you bring in plural. You bring in are, if the PS happens to be plural. What do we mean? Let's consider this. We have A, we have S, V, O. Let's try to convert this. You bring your AO to PS. PS will now be Shola. This happens to be your PS, passive subject. Shola. Is Shola singular or plural? That will be the first question that we need to ask yourself. Can you say Shola am, or you say Shola is, or you say Shola are? We are going to say Shola is. Shola is. Now, what we now need to do next, you come back to this. This happens to be your lexical verb. Change this to past participle. What's the past participle of beat? That will be beaten. Shola is beaten. Are we together now? Now, when we have Shola is beaten, because this is present. Who beat Shola? This happens to be our verb, verb, passive verb. Now, who beats Shola indicates the preposition man. Then, from there we move on straight to AO, our AS. Take our AS to the position of AO, which will now change to PO. PO will be Olu. Shola is beaten by Olu, which is going to be our P-O. So, if we are going to convert Olu beats Shola into passive, what you just do is you say Shola is beaten by Olu. Not you now say Shola was beaten by Olu. Not always do we use was. This happens to be the present passive sentence. Now, the second one. They beat the boy. The beat here that we have, we may indicate this one as present, and we may call this one a past. If this one is treated as present, how do we convert it? Do not forget, they is a plural. That's why this one will be taken as a present, because this one is also a plural. We can also treat this as past, but first, let's treat it as present. If you now have it this way, bring your AO. This happens to be AO, active object. Bring it to the position of subject, which will now be PX, which is supposed to be the boy. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is the boy singular or plural? The boy happens to be singular. With that, what you do is you bring in the primary auxiliary that is singular. Is. The boy is. What happened again? We have beat. Just the same verb. Beaten. By whom? By them. Simple as A, B, C. I believe that one is clearly taken out. Before we go on, let's consider another example. If you say, the student, or let me say, the girl, writes some letters quite often. The girl writes some letters quite often. How do we convert this to passive? It's very simple. Do not waste your time. Do not make a mistake. Bring out your object. Use it as a subjective case here. You now have this as the answer. We have some letters. Some letters. Take a good look at this. This has already changed to plural. Once we have this one as plural, the verb that we are going to use will also have to be plural. That will now be are. Some letters are. Then what happened again? Written. The past participle of writes. Some letters are written by whom? By the girl. Some letters are written by the girl. Will be your passive form, or the girl writes some letters quite often. You may complete it with the usage of the adjunct quite often. Simple as A, B, C. I believe that one is clearly taken as well. But when we call it a dative, let's examine the past form of the past form of simple tense. Now, the same rule is still going to be used. The same method. Once we have auxiliary, primary auxiliary will be plus verb en. That is what we're going to use to convert that to passive verb. Let's examine the past as well before we call it a day. Now, we already dealt with simple present tense. Let's talk of simple past. The past of write basically could be wrote. If you now have this, what will be the passive? You just use was, or we use were. Then now say plus. Let's use the passive and the past perfect of, past participle of wrote, which is supposed to be written. How do we convert this? It's very simple. Let's consider some examples. Like today, some or some yesterday. First one. Today, some yesterday. How do we convert this to passive? It's very simple. Bring your object to subjective case. It will now be a song. A song. How many songs are we talking about? We are talking about only one song. After one song, you use singular. That will be was. A song was. The past participle form of sung is going to be sung. A song was sung. S-U-N-G. By whom? By today. When? Yesterday. Simple as A, B, C. What we need there is was. Are we together now? So the next one, let's consider another example. Nkechi cut the grasses this morning. Nkechi cut the grasses this morning. To change this one to passive is very simple. Just convert this one to passive. Go button. Now what you do now is you just add the grasses. The grasses. Now the grasses, is that singular or plural? Basically that would be plural. Just use were. The grasses were passive of cut, as in past participle of cut is going to be cut. Do not forget regular and irregular verbs. Cut, present, cut, past participle. Now, the grasses were cut by whom? By Nkechi. When? This morning. Simple as A, B, C as well. That one is not problematic at all. That is pretty simple. But one major problem and one major mistake that the students do make is this. Most of the time, they may get confused, thinking everything will be was sung, was done, was written, was no. Not everything is was. The first thing you do is consider the tense that is used in the active form. Once you consider the tense, you now know what to do to the verb. If the tense is simple, the format that we use to convert it is different from the format we use to convert continuous. And at the same time is different from that of perfect. Likewise, different from that of future. Let's consider another example. This one could be tricky. Now we have Taiwo did not wash the dishes. Taiwo did not wash the dishes. Let's take a good look at this. Did not wash happens to be our verb. How do we convert this to passive? Do not be confused because this will be wash. It has to be washed. To identify whether it is simple or continuous, we use just do and did. Did here is indicating the negative form of do, the negative form of wash in the past. We say Taiwo washed the dishes. That will be the positive. The negative will now be Taiwo did not wash the dishes as the negative. How do we now convert Taiwo did not wash the dishes to passive? The question you need to ask yourself now is, how would I convert Taiwo washed the dishes into passive? If you want to convert Taiwo washed the dishes, the same way you converted that one is how you are going to convert Taiwo did not wash the dishes. Let's go. If you are to say Taiwo, now say Taiwo washed the dishes. We say the dishes were washed by Taiwo. That will be the present, the positive there. How do we now change that positive to negative? Use this box. Here. Taiwo washed the dishes. Convert this to passive. Say the dishes were washed by whom? Taiwo. Now, you need to convert this to passive. How do we do that? You've already discovered the positive answer. How do you change this positive to negative? That would have been the easiest part. Now, what will be the negative form? The dishes were washed by Tyrone. You just need to add adverb of negation. Adverb of negation, negative adverb to the auxiliary that we have. Not. Simple as saying this. Break your answer to your box, to your table. Tyrone did not wash the dishes. Change it to the dishes. The dishes, because this one is did, past tense. Use were. The dishes were not. Are we together now? Okay. Past participle of wash. Were not washed by whom? By time. Simple as A, B, C. That is that about that. And with this, we've come to the end of the second edition of active and passive verbs. Please do like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Usman English Class, for more. This topic has not ended yet. We continue with the next episode soonest. Thank you. God bless.